My name is Ashley Duncan, and I teach sophomore and junior English. So the first question that Kayla has for me is, what got you into teaching, or what made me want to become a teacher? And I would have to say that I wanted to become a teacher at a very young age, but my reasoning had changed and evolved over time. I first realized I wanted to be a teacher in elementary school, but that's because I think everybody wants to be who they are surrounded with at a young age. But I quickly realized in high school and in my early years of college that I loved being with students and seeing growth. And that kept me in the same plan to become a teacher. Seeing the growth and building relationships and seeing growth in those relationships is what made me want to continue teaching and pursue teaching.
So you said that growth was important in terms of like what got you into teaching. So I'm assuming that has something to do with what you think makes a great teacher, but can you say
Yes.
about what you think makes a great teacher?
So what makes a great teacher? So two things on this. One of my favorite professors asked us to define what makes a teacher. Not necessarily what makes a great teacher, but what makes a teacher. And we came up with a definition, and it was the best thing ever. And it said, teachers are all things to all people. That is what a teacher is. And so what I think makes a great teacher is a teacher who can adapt to be many things for many students. And with that comes the growth, because if you are able to adapt to meet students' needs, then you already are at that firsthand to see that growth, and to hopefully enable that growth and to push them to grow even more. But that definition of what a teacher is supposed to be is probably my favorite thing.
How do you think that you become all things to all people? Like, how do you think is that something you can teach? Is that something that you are born with? Like, where does that come from?
I think it comes from a lot of different places, actually, because I don't think it's something that you can teach, but I think it's something that you can learn. I don't think anybody could come and teach me how I'm supposed to adapt to meet the needs of certain students. I think that sometimes you just have to learn trial by error, and I think you learn by loving on people, and you learn by loving on students. And that sounds silly, but it's true though. Like, you have to be able to meet those students where they're at, and you have to be okay with where you're at when you're meeting those students. So it's a weird answer to that question, but I think it works.
So some of the pillars of what we work on is obviously educational, we've talked about that part, but like process and coaching. So can you tell me about, and then therefore community in that, but can you tell me about, you are a brand new teacher, so I know that some of this is ideals versus maybe practice yet, but can you think of any processes that are in your, that you either learn from student teaching or in your classes that you incorporated or want to incorporate into your teaching? So processes that you want to incorporate into teaching.
All right, yeah. So processes that I want to incorporate into teaching, or into my classroom and my teaching. So that's a tough one, because I think for me, I'm still learning my identity as a teacher, and I'm going to be forever, but extra emphasis on it right now because this is the first time I'll have my own classroom. And trying to differentiate, what my strengths are and what I bring to my classroom and what I need to work on will help me navigate what processes I want to bring in. But I will say, from student teaching and being in this classroom, literally, and being with you, and then just coaching and being with students in a different environment, just the emphasis on routine and the emphasis on transparency and emphasis on, making sure that, I guess that making sure that students are the focal point of the conversation and the focal point of the dialogue in my classroom rather than me is going to be something that I want to continuously pursue. But yeah, I think that's all I got for that one.
So like student first,
constantly. Yeah.
One of the things that you do really well, and I don't think you realize how well you do this because you haven't seen other people not do it yet, like is the opportunities for students to select how they demonstrate mastery.
Yeah.
So can you talk about
Yeah.
how'd you make that decision? What does it look like?
That's probably my favorite part of what we did and like what I was able to do when we were planning things, was when I noticed that, like, especially in this small learning community, we have students with so many different backgrounds, period, point blank, anywhere. We're gonna have students from so many different backgrounds, but all of them had different interests and different things that they wanted to talk about, and they had different strengths. So to hone in on those strengths, but also encourage them to grow, we were able to give them lots of different options with assignments. Like, they got to choose what type of project they wanted to create, or they got to choose, what they wanted to write about. And by doing that, they were more interested in their work. I enjoyed reading their work and grading their work because I could tell that they were putting effort into something that they cared about. And so giving them that sense of agency and freedom is something that I will want to continue.
So it sounds like student choice is like a really key piece of what education looks like for you.
Yes,
in the classroom.
major.
You have mentioned a couple times, like, during your student teaching, which I think is probably the most applicable version of community building you've seen so far. Can you talk about what the importance of community is, not just in your classroom, but in terms of teaching?
Yeah. Oh, I like this question a lot because there's so many different ways. Obviously, classroom community, but I'm going to jump over that and just jump into the team of coworkers that you have in a community, or how important it is to have that community among your coworkers, because I didn't realize, and I don't think anyone coming out of college really can grasp it until you get into this environment, of how important it is to have a bunch of really great educators to have your back and to help collaborate when you're planning, or emotional support, or literally anything of, hey, I'm having a really bad day and I need some help here, or hey, let's celebrate the wins this week. I need that. That was an incredible, it was just shocking to me when I got into this position and realized how important that was. So that sense of community, but also the sense of community of having more adults that are for students. It is so important, not only for them to have your back emotionally and help you plan and help you in the workplace, but to know that all of your coworkers and your people are all for the same mission and on the mission to help these students. That's what was mind-blowing to me. I also think my sense of community is a little bit skewed because I have been in this community for how many years would it be?
13 years of school, so 4.
Well, I'm thinking like choice period.
So
this would be
your 9th year. I mean, 8 years, 4 years as a student, but then you coached.
I coached, and then I was substitute teaching.
Yeah.
So this will be technically like 9 years in that community, and so like being able to see a community evolve and then making sure that you're evolving with that community and not holding it back is really important, because I know choice is nothing like a choice was when I was a freshman or a sophomore. And I guess maybe should I talk about that a little bit, because so in this small learning community called Choice, we work a lot with service learning projects and social action projects, but the Choice hallway, the Choice community as a whole, is much different than any other community. And I was a graduate of this high school, and I was able to be here and see, what this community looked like during my 4 years of high school. And then I'm coaching here as well, so I'm able to see the students here in their environment and see how they're learning, but also now student teaching and accepting a position to teach English in this hallway. I've continuously seen that this hallway and this learning community is constantly evolving, and that's important to know as an educator and as just an adult in this learning community, that we can't be stagnant in where we are at. We have to continue to grow with those students, because we're meeting where the students are, and that forces us to grow and change because the students are changing all the time. So I just kind of blabbered about that for a while, but I love it. I think it's important, and I loved being able to see Choice change like this. And it's just exciting, and I think we can talk about it forever and ever, and I could laugh through it, but it's fun.
It's good. My last question for you is going to be, as a first-year teacher, what are some of the things that you want to learn, want to develop, are curious about?
Can we write a book about that?
I would love to, yes.
Can we Oh my gosh. What are this, as a first year teacher, what are some of the things that I'm curious about, want to learn?
Yeah, just that. Like, what are you
Okay.
wanting?
I want a lot of things because your girl needs to learn all of it. I have a lot to learn. I think the biggest thing that I am curious about, just point blank curious, is about how, and this might be silly, but through student teaching, I started in January, so I didn't see how the beginning of the school year happens. And there's going to be students that I'm meeting for the very first time, and I'm so curious about what it's going to feel like and how it's going to be to have students, the students every day, January through May. Like, I am just curious and excited about that because I've never experienced that. Yeah. With coaching, you know, I get them part of the year, and with substitute teaching, I'm all over the building. So I'm excited, I'm curious, and I'm nervous about having students long term, because I think any new teacher would be, but I'm just really I'm excited about it.
I'm excited to see you get to develop relationships, because you have really good relationships with your student teaching kids. I'm excited to see you get to develop that from August instead of January.
Thank you. I'm excited too. I'm really intimidated by it because I know that I think I got so attached to these students in such a short amount of time, and now I'm like, what's going to happen when I'm with them double that? Like, how is my heart going to be able to handle that? But it'll be fine. It'll be great. But something else that I want to learn is just navigating the ins and outs of just everyday teacher life, which I know I'm never going to learn that, but I want to adapt to being more flexible. And I say adapt to being more flexible because I know that as a teacher, I have to adapt to so many different things, but that's with students, of course. But like, you just giving me, so earlier before this interview, she gave me a bunch of dates for like holiday spectacular, like a performance, or like conferences, or just like these things that happen during the school year that, you know, I'm planning, and like I didn't even think about that. And I want to get better at being like, okay, that's okay, I'm gonna roll that one off my back and we're gonna plan through that. I know I'll get better with it at time, but that's something I want to learn. I have a lot of things I want to learn. I could write like a whole book on this.
Well, if you'd like to share some of those things and I can start helping you, I would love.
Yeah, let's do that. What do I need to learn? Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.